Welcome to the Redeemer Podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and today we are continuing our series exploring Christian education across Canada. And today we're talking about Prince Edward Island. I am joined by Loretta and Redeemer alumni Kim from Immanuel Christian School in Charlottetown, PEI. We're off. It's such a good conversation. I'm so glad that you get to hear it. If it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day. And with that, here we go. Hello and welcome into another episode of the Redeemer University podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and I am so excited for today's episode. A very special episode. We are continuing our series where we are interviewing different principals and staff members across Canada, talking about Christian education. We're trying to do it from each and every province, and today we have a very special province, Prince Edward Island, and I am joined by Kim and Loretta from Immanuel Christian School in Charlottetown, PEI. Ladies, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Fun to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to nerd out with you guys about Christian education and what's going on in Prince Edward Island. And if you're watching with us, feel free to check out some of our other episodes on this topic. And we have some more coming up, but we're excited today to focus specifically on Prince Edward Island and even more specifically what the Lord is doing at Immanuel Christian School. So I did send you guys a couple of questions ahead of times, but maybe let me start off with Kim and Loretta. Could you guys just say, how did you get connected with Immanuel, and what's your different roles at the school?
Sure. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Loretta Anderson, and I teach grade 1 here at Immanuel Christian School, and I've been here 22 years.
Wow.
I heard about Immanuel a long time ago when it was even first being established, as my sister-in-law and brother were two of the people that helped start the school. So I always knew about it. My nieces and nephews went here and started volunteering here as I got older. And then after I moved away to get my education degree and taught away for a bit, I came back and got a job here at Immanuel.
That's awesome! Wow,
Yeah.
So you've been around for a while. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a while.
That's great. Oh well, it sounds like you're the right person to have on this podcast.
It definitely is. Yeah.
And Kim, what about yourself?
Yeah, my story is not as I'm new, relatively new to PEI. I've been here I moved in 2018 to PEI, and I taught in Barrie, Ontario for 12 years before that. I still describe myself as a wannabe islander. I'm doing my best. I work on the island. I married a man from PEI, so I'm doing my best to try to fit in. So I came, like I said, in 2018 after teaching in Ontario for 12 years, partly because I had heard about the school. I had been here the year before in 2017 with my choir. We came on a tour. I've never been to PEI at that point. Let's get in some Sprinter vans and drive east. And we sang at ICS. And I just remember feeling like, oh, this is a special place. There's something special about this school. And then the following year, I was just feeling kind of restless and thinking maybe God has a change in store for me. And I saw the job posting. They were at the time expanding their high school. The high school is relatively new to the school. And I thought, well, I have high school experience. We'll give it a shot. And I got the job, and here I am trying to be an Islander ever since.
Oh, that's so exciting. Well, I'm so thankful that both of you are on today. And we're going to talk about Immanuel, but I just want to remind our viewers and listeners that if you want to check out their website, kind of see what they're about, I'm going to link all that in the description below. So definitely go, check them out. You can follow them on social media, things like that. But let's maybe talk, and Kim, you kind of started it a little bit, and Loretta, you kind of touched on a little bit. Can you tell us the story of Immanuel Christian School in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island? Like how did this school get started?
Yeah, so 40 years ago it started. So we're celebrating our 40th year this year.
Congratulations.
So that'll be a great celebration. So some parents were getting together and wanting Christian education for their for their own children. And I believe many of them were come from away, we call them. They weren't from the island. They had come from like places in Ontario where they themselves had gone to Christian schools. And they wanted a Christian school like that on the island. And we didn't have one yet. There was not one that was run by the parents. So they wanted a board led, parent led kind of school. And so they decided to start one. They prayed a lot. They uh, looked into different ways of doing it, and they ended up starting the school with 12 students in the basement of Salvation Army Church, and with one
Wow.
teacher in grade, I believe it was grades 1 to 5. And then from there, it grew. We're now in our third building um, as we keep growing and expanding, adding grades all the time. And then just 8 years ago, we added the high school. So it's been exciting. I know that it hasn't been easy, as most people from Christian schools know. It's not always easy running a private school. I know
Mm.
there's been times they've almost closed, but they just persevered. They kept going, and God has been there all along.
Oh,
Yeah.
praise the Lord. And so just to be clear, so Emmanuel right now in its current state is a K
Hmm.
through 12
Yeah.
K through 12 school.
K through 12 with 190 students.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
And we are an advanced school, so we're part of most of the schools in the advanced organization are in Ontario. We're the only one out east, if not one of the only ones out
Oh,
east.
interesting.
And
Hmm.
so that's quite a neat thing too. That's our umbrella organization. And
Very
Yes.
cool. Very, very cool. Well, and I thank you for sharing a little bit about the history there. And I guess maybe could you describe a little bit, and Kim, I'll maybe throw this over to you first, is how would you describe Emmanuel's school culture?
yeah, that's a fun question. Loretta and I had fun talking about that in advance when you gave us the question, Zach. Um, we There's some special things about a K to 12 school,
Yeah.
and it's special to see 18-year-olds connecting with 5-year-olds. It's quite beautiful to see those
Yeah.
relationships in the classroom and happening even on the playground or happening, walking down the hall. That's a really beautiful thing to see. We love project-based learning at ICS, and we love using each other's classes, older or younger, to be audiences and to share their work together. Loretta has a really neat story about a project she did involving chairs, and
Hmm.
I'd love for her to share that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
of course.
one
Let's
of
hear
the
it.
projects I was doing in my classroom is teaching students how to build and they have to learn how to build a structure. And we decided to build chairs. So I don't know how to build a chair, but I knew that there was a tech class up in high school where they actually built chairs. So I asked a student to come down with their chair and explain how to build a chair to grade 1 students. And so it's pretty exciting because the grade 1s love the older students coming in. They can't wait, and they're listening like unbelievably because someone new was in the classroom to hear. And then the grade 12 students, of course, are always quite excited to share their learning with the younger ones. So it's really like a great situation.
Yeah.
I get my experts right here at school.
That's such a healthy school atmosphere to have that, and that you have that openness of like, hey, here's this need in the classroom, and you're able you're I'm assuming you collaborated kind of with the instructor of the tech class or something, and
Mhm.
having that resource right in your own very school, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, it's really special. I was just thinking one thing this year the high school students are doing is we have a variety of committees, and they
Oh,
switch committees, and we meet once a month, and they have an opportunity throughout the year to do every committee. And one of the committees is called the Elementary School Connection, and so they plan activities for different grades in the elementary school. So we're being really intentional about connecting across the grades. So one of the activities was before Christmas, the grade 5, 6, and 7s came over and had a gingerbread house building competition. We've had dodgeball for the really younger kids. We have one for the grade 8s, a photo scavenger hunt coming up. But it's just as much as the younger students want to have the older students come. The older guys love it too. They love it when, if sometimes a student wanders up through the high school and, oh, what are you doing here? And it's so exciting. Like they just love. It's really special to see how that all happens. So
Wait a second. Wait a second. You're telling me that your high school has committees, various committees, and you only talked about the one that committee alone is a rarity to find
yeah,
at a Christian school or any school. And so that committee will plan events for your elementary school.
yeah.
How many students would be on that committee?
Yeah, so this year we have 45 students in our high school and in grades 9 through 12, and there's four different committees. So at any time there's 10 to 12 kids on a committee, and
Wow.
then they do that. Each committee meets 2 or 3 times during the year then. So then right now, yeah, like I said, our committee has planned this photo scavenger hunt for the grade 8s, and then we pitch the idea to the teacher of that class, and then the teacher gets the high school teachers. We support our high schoolers running these activities, and then the elementary teachers get a break from that hour, and they can have so it's kind of the goal is that it's win-win. It's no work for the elementary teachers. It's a great leadership opportunity for
Yeah.
the high schoolers. And in our whole school, we organized every student into, we call them tree groups. And so we actually have groups ready to go that are made up of students from grade 12 to kindergarten. So we can do activities at the ready with them, whether it's a chapel or whether it's a school-wide, community building activity. We can say we're going to meet in our tree groups, and all of these students are divided up into these different groups. So it's really cool that we are intentionally trying to foster the relationships between all the grades.
That's just you guys did a great job describing. That just sounds so healthy for a school to have. That is so exciting. Just before we move on, I have to ask, what are some of the other committees you have?
Oh yeah, so one of them is student council. So
Okay.
every student is on student council at some point during the year, and then they will
Interesting.
plan like immediate activities for the next coming months. So the student council committee that met in November, they planned all of our Christmas activities. So they'll suggest like maybe a fundraiser for, right now the student council committee is planning a fundraiser for fire relief in California.
Cool.
There's also like just fun things. They've organized us to go skating, spirit days, like red and green day or things like that. So student council will do all those sorts of things. Then we also have one committee that puts on a hot dog lunch. So the students, they've already done the legwork to have like an extra hot lunch, and then on one of those days, those 10 students are in the kitchen cooking hot dogs and delivering them to the classes for parents can pre-order hot dogs for their kids. And then the third one, I'm totally gapping, or the fourth one, I'm totally gapping. Student council, elementary school, hot dog. Oh, in-school service. So then we in advance will ask teachers, from 11 to 12 on Wednesday in 2 weeks, I've got 10 students who needs help with anything. So they could go and read with younger students. They might, if we have like a massive amount of pizza boxes, they might put those all out in the recycling. Or if a whole bunch of windows need to be cleaned, they'll do that. So they all rotate and they do all of those things throughout the year.
Wow. That I'm kind of speechless. I've never heard of a high school doing something like that, but that sounds very well organized. That sounds very beneficial to the students, and it sounds like it's beneficial to your school as well, which is really great.
Yeah, I think it's working, and I think it's really fun that all the students, we didn't just put them in a committee and then they do that for the year, that they switch and they get a little taste of everything, and it's actually our first year doing it, and it's working great.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
my next question, that's a good segue into this, and you've already talked about so many exciting things about Immanuel Christian School,
Mhm.
but maybe Loretta, I'll toss it over to you.
Mm-hmm.
What are you excited about for what is happening at Immanuel Christian right now and into the future?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we were thinking about this and we were just thinking that our school, now being 40 years old, we're not brand new. We have lots of years behind us. So we've impacted a great amount of people here on our island. So we have like lots of alumni. We have lots of people who have been affected by our school, and we like that. We think that's pretty exciting how we can call on our greater community for many different things as our needs come up, and as we're developing different committees, even on the board, we can get people who have graduated from here, right? Like that's just we're getting to that point, which is quite exciting. Our athletic program has grown so much over the years. We have like teams that are winning banners for our gym, and
That's
we
awesome.
have an athletic director. We've never had someone like that before, but the last few years we've had that, and that's just paid off so much. We have this beautiful gym that
Hmm.
we only got 9 years ago now. Um, Again, another exciting thing about us.
Well,
Considering where we started, it's just really neat to think
I,
about the blessings of the
I
school.
I have to share a little story. The one time I was at Immanuel, and I'm blessed. I've gotten to go a few times to your great school. Is you guys invited me to a volleyball game there, and I was surprised to see at not just like a lot of times you go to a school volleyball game and it's like there's the players and then there's their parents and coaches, referees, things like that. I was amazed at the amount of like not just parents of your school, but also your players' peers that aren't
Oh
necessarily
Mhm.
on
yeah.
the team, but they showed up and like they were loud and it was fun. It was a great game day atmosphere. But
Yeah.
yeah, that lots of excitement in your sports program for
You
sure.
would be hard pressed to find a better cheering community, I
Mm.
think. I know we're biased, but like they show up for each other and cheer each other on, and it is really beautiful to see. And even the fact, like I remember that day and I was away, and one of the students messaged me and said, make sure Zach knows he's invited, like we really want Zach to come to the game. Like they love to celebrate, and they love to bring people into our school. And
Mhm.
Zach, actually, I do remember you commented one time to me, this school has a special feeling. This
Mhm.
feels great walking in here. And I loved hearing you say that, and I love also that you're not the only person who said that. And it's
Mhm.
amazing when people walk in
Mhm.
and and know like, oh, there's something special here. The Holy Spirit is at work here. And also, parents have toured our school and then said, I know that my child will be loved here.
Yeah.
And Loretta's kids went to ICS,
Mhm.
and my daughter will go to ICS. She's only 3. But I love, that's where I want her to be, in a school
Mhm.
where you know that she will be loved, and that's how she's going to learn. I love that.
Mhm.
That that's a really good segue into our next question here. And why do families join ICS?
Mhm.
Right? And you've mentioned a few things, but like when you're giving a tour to a prospective family or something, like why would you say that is one of the some of the main reasons that they decide to join the ICS community?
Yeah.
Some of them are just dedicated to Christian education. Um, you just have that in your community that that's what they want for their child,
Mhm.
and they're ready to commit. But not certainly not everyone is like that. We've had a lot of families come who have been disappointed in the public school, in for different reasons, just for what's being taught there, and it's not aligning with their morals anymore, so they're ready for a change. And also even the way some of our students talk about the public schools sometimes that they've been to, some of them didn't get treated very
Yeah.
nicely there,
Mhm.
and they're ready. Just needed a change, and often, I mean, our school's certainly not perfect, but often they come here and they'll say like, I was welcomed here, you
Yeah.
accepted
Mhm.
me here, and we're like, that's exactly who we want to be. So I'm glad that happened,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes it's that. um Other than that, any others that you can
Yeah,
think of?
no, I don't. I think you mentioned it. I wanted to add too. Um, we've heard when students come here from a public school, they have commented on how well prepared they feel
Mm.
Mhm.
for post secondary education, and for our school to have such a new high school. Um, that is really what we want to hear. We want to hear that they're headed off to university our students are getting into their first choices. So we're so happy about that, but that they're prepared and
Mm-hmm.
and not only prepared academically, but that they are prepared to ask their professors questions and they're prepared to have conversations in class and that is really exciting. Yeah, and I know that's a little bit more of the previous question, but I think it's important to note that too. I did want to add, can I tell you a couple more exciting things, Zach? Because
Absolutely, yeah.
we could probably answer that question like all day long. But I wanted to just add a couple more things about exciting things happening at ICS or things in our school culture. We mentioned that we love project-based learning and that our school is set up really nicely to do that. But I do think we have chapel. Elementary has chapel on Fridays and high school has chapel on Wednesdays. And the other day after our high school chapel, I went downstairs and our office manager was just sitting there in tears because she heard 45 teenagers worshiping at the top of their lungs. And what she didn't see was them also doing the actions and just impromptu extra singing and worshiping. And I mean, that is so special. And in our elementary chapel, I know that they're always learning songs about who God is, but also ties into our school verse and it ties into our school character words. And I just think it's really a special thing. And then something that I think is happening at ICS that is exciting, but also would probably be a reason I think parents would send their kids here as well, is that we have such a beautiful array of staff who have such different gifts and talents and bring so many things to the table. And just to mention a few, like Loretta mentioned, we have an athletic director who is really passionate about kids excelling in sports and getting to play and participate. And she finds all kinds of coaches outside of our school community who are now part of our school community who love coaching basketball or who love badminton. Or she had a student get involved in powerlifting this year because she heard he was interested. And I just think that's just shout out to her. That's really great that that's happening. In the high school, we have a tech and trades program without having a tech and trades facility at all.
Wow.
And our tech and trades teacher, she's the kind of person who loves to figure out things on her own. They've done a lot of their own renos and work on building their own house. And so she called the Construction Association of Prince Edward Island and just said, I want to have a tech program at my school, but I don't have equipment. We don't have any money for it. And so they completely partnered with her. The kids go there in the afternoon and they use all of their equipment. They build all kinds of things for the community, for our school, the chairs that Loretta had mentioned, and it's free. And they just want to do it because they want kids involved in tech programs. And so I just think it's so worth mentioning that our teachers are not afraid of obstacles we might face, or they're not afraid to try to find opportunities for students.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. It's so great.
That's so proactive. Wow, that's awesome.
It's so cool. Our EA program is growing. We have more educational assistants in our classes. Our grade 8 teacher is an incredible artist, and she's just gotten all of these grade 8s on board with watercolors, and the work that they're producing is so beautiful. We have a teacher completing her Master's of Counseling, which is an incredible resource to students and staff at our school. There's so many great things, and I really do think our school is doing such a good job of bringing out those gifts and talents and teachers and finding ways that we can use that to grow our school. So it's exciting to see, and I think it's a reason why people would send their kids here. That's my long answer.
That's a lot. No, yeah, that's. I have no doubt we could probably just do a whole 3-hour podcast about the exciting things happening at Immanuel.
Yes,
there.
we could.
Could we maybe touch on, and man, this is such a terrible segue on my part here, but I really do value your perspective and your opinions on the state of Christian education in Prince Edward Island, just to give our viewers kind of a peek into life of Islanders. I know you guys are in Charlottetown, can you, for someone who's watching this maybe over in Vancouver, British Columbia or something like that, can you give an idea of like what Prince Edward Island looks like in terms of just your day-to-day life, but also where does Christian education fit into that?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So well, Prince Edward Island is the smallest province that
Yeah.
there is. So we are small. We are an island, and we do have a bit of a different culture here in our day-to-day life. We're pretty easygoing people. Kind of go with the flow. And we don't always have maybe all the resources that we think big cities have, because we're so small. We have about 160,000 people on PEI. Most of the people would live like in the Charlottetown area. There's
Okay.
another bigger city too, Summerside, but most live in that area. We have 2 Christian schools on the island.
In
That's
Charlottetown.
it. And they're in Charlottetown, and there's no other ones. So basically, there are lots of people in our community who travel an hour. There's some that travel an hour to come to school every day. So it is a commitment on that way too for our parents. And the other Christian school has similar numbers to us, right?
I think so.
Very
Yeah.
similar. So that's about how many people are sending their children to Christian school on PEI. With regards to the state of it, we feel like it's growing. If you see our school, it is growing. We're getting more and more people coming and looking for alternate ways of schooling their children. We do see homeschooling. I believe that's growing as well. And I think it comes back to that part of the public schools not really meeting their needs anymore. And
Right.
we often will get some families who come in just deflated and need something different. And they'll usually check out both of the schools and see where they fit best.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kim, do you have anything to add to that?
I think, yeah, like we're seeing families, a big thing that Loretta mentioned, that disillusionment with the public school system, that public schools aren't meeting their needs or not aligning with their values. And I think, I mean, that may always have been the case, but I think that's increasing for sure. And I think families are willing to pay for education pay for Christian education because they desperately want something different for their own kids. We were talking about this. We are seeing families join our school, and I think this is probably true across the board. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that families may not be traditional. I don't know, church going families, or they would be professing to believe in God and wanting Christian education, but maybe choosing Christian education now as a I just know that I can't go to public school. And so we're seeing such a variety of families wanting something different and wanting Christian education. And so that does mean, I think, that the schools our school, other schools I'm sure as well, we need to have conversations about how our school functions as a training ground as well as a mission field.
Yeah.
And I think that that's quite an important thing to talk about. Both are important and both are necessary. And I think that having a very clear statement of values and statement of beliefs is really important for us, and as we navigate all of that. But it's really exciting to see that growing and to see Christian education growing. And like, would you say that's the case across Canada, Zach, that Christian schools are growing?
I would say that.
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons we want to do this series in general is to kind of realize there's something really cool happening in Christian education in Canada, and it's not really being talked about, right?
Yeah.
And it's when I talk to professionals like yourselves, either at the elementary school or high school level, and then us, at Redeemer, we're at the post-secondary school. We're seeing these opportunities for growth happen in Canada that really we haven't really seen in at least to my knowledge of in kind of the past 30 or so years. And so it's exciting. I would say it is a very exciting time to be involved in Christian education. And I guess my one follow-up for you guys is when you have a new family that's checking out Immanuel Christian School, what are some of the first things you would kind of tell them?
What would you say?
Well, one of the first things I would probably say is that we're a school that faces like we're Christ centered. So we see the Bible as the truth, and that's what we will be teaching at our school, and that's what we will be centering everything on is that, and that Christ would be the center of everything. I like to make that clear right from the beginning, just in case they're not sure, because sometimes the word Christian doesn't always mean that you're following what the Bible says. So I make that clear. I usually start talking about like the culture of our school, and usually show people around and let them see for themselves what's going on right there in front of them, and just show them how we are a welcoming place, a welcoming community. That's one of the things most of the parents and new students who come would say about us, and we want to make sure we keep being like that. So I would definitely say that.
Yeah, I think it's been fun when there's been families touring and they walk through the high school, and then just to ask an existing student, like, what do you like about being up here? Or what do you like about the high school, or why are you happy you're here? And I actually just recently wrote down a bunch of those answers because I wanted to have that on hand of what they would say. And they've said, we're like a family. They've said, I feel safe learning here. They've said, I love learning about my faith and about who God made me to be while I'm in a history class or while I'm in a math class. We do a big project when they're in grade 11 or 12 where they design their own project and a major research paper, and they have to answer the question, what does all of this have to do with my faith? And so I love that. I think they would talk about that too, like that they're in a safe place to figure out who God made them to be and the gifts and talents that God has given them. And I mean, it's fun. Like I went to a 1,200 person public high school, and it was such a different experience. I love seeing all these students of different grades eating together and laughing together and learning together, and then that's in the high school. But then when you see them, like I said, the 18-year-olds with the 5-year-olds and the 6-year-olds, it's really special to see all of that. And I do think families love that. They love that all their kids are in the same place, and I think that's quite a beautiful thing as well.
And they're teaching each other the story of God's story too. We often think it's the teachers teaching, but they're teaching each other. Even with my little grade ones, it's so interesting to watch how they model each other, and they're teaching each other about how to pray or what to pray for, and they're just really feeding off each other as well.
Oh, well, Loretta and Kim, thank you so much for coming. This has been a lot of fun. Let this episode of the Redeemer podcast be a celebration of what God is doing in Immanuel Christian School, what he's done, what he's doing right now, and what he's going to do in the years to come. So thank you to both of you for coming on the Redeemer podcast.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank
it's our pleasure.
Having us. We're glad you got PEI in there.
Woo,
of course.
We're slightly proud to be Islanders, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, I got that vibe. Well, and if you're watching this or listening to this, any of our podcast listeners, feel free to check out the podcast or check out other episodes of the podcast as we explore Christian education across Canada. And of course, go check out Immanuel Christian School's website. I'll link it in the show notes down below. And as always, God bless, and we will see you in the next episode.